Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. We're here on Wacky Wednesday, and let's see what wacky things are going on in the news today, as well as the serious stuff that we need to report so people know what's going on. Obviously. Let's go ahead and turn that off, reset this, and today on Before Coffee. Dow hails return to profit, but warns a €25 million hit from the Rhodes wildfires.
Ohio voters reject constitutional change intended to thwart abortion amendment.
Yeah, abortion amendment. SEALs practice social distancing. Aerial survey of the North Sea shows.
And in Supreme Court news, Supreme Court allows Biden to regulate ghost guns. And we look at Clarence Thomas pimping his sweet ride.
Car pierces first floor of home in U.S. or the second floor for those Europeans out there.
And 32 cars are in a Florida lake in Wacky Wednesday news. 32 at least, maybe. In the comprehensive news, Planet Earth, for, August 9th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
Okay. First news story. We've got Dow, a travel agency who is making money, but is worried its money is gonna go up in flames as the Mediterranean is hit by wildfires. This is from Joanna Partridge on The Guardian. The package holiday. Oh, I just remembered my background's wrong. Here you go.
There you go.
I have my gaming background. There you go. We're back in the Netherlands. The package holiday operator Dow has enjoyed its first profitable April to June months since the pandemic, but warned it expected to take a €25 million hit from last month's wildfires in Rhodes. Dow said the total wildfire bill would come out of its full year results and included the price of canceling holidays, compensating customers, and covering their welfare expenses as well as flying them home. The tour operator reported underlying pre-tax profits of €969.4 million or £146 million from April to June. Its first profit for key spring and early summer period since the start of COVID crisis, and almost a 197 higher than the same quarter a year earlier. It took 5.5 million people on holiday in those 3 months, 0.4 million more passengers, or a rise of 9%. And said current booking levels for sunshine getaways had met in expectations for a strong summer. One would argue a too strong of a summer. Despite the cost of living crisis, this almost marked a return to pre-pandemic booking levels. Dow carried 90% of as many passengers as in the same quarter in 2019. In recent weeks, Dow was among the travel companies that canceled package holidays to Rhodes across several days as wildfires burned on the Greek island, providing full refunds to affected passengers. The company said it had evacuated a total of 8,000 customers and had operated 12 repatriation flights to bring people home. But it added that about 80% of those holidaying on the island at the time were not affected by the fires. It and other travel companies were urged at the time by consumer groups to reimburse holidaymakers who chose not to travel to anywhere on the island while the fires burned. Dow said that Rhodes accounted for about 5% of its summer holiday offering this year, and while bookings had been affected straight after the fires in Rhodes and southern Europe, they had recovered quickly. The company's foundation has launched a fundraising campaign for people on Rhodes directly affected by the fires, and it said it would double every donation received. Well, isn't that nice? A company who actually cares about people. Yeah, we lost some money, but could you guys help donate and we'll double it for all those people whose houses got burned down. The company said it was benefiting from a strong demand, but also from higher prices for holidays. It was on track to reach its expectation for full-year profit. Dow reported it had 12.5 million bookings for this summer, of which 4.3 million bookings had been added since its last updated investors in early May. It has sold 86% of its summer offering, matching levels seen last year and in 2019 before the pandemic. So, I guess the lesson here is use Tao if you want to not sponsored. Hashtag not sponsored. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even though there's fires, people are still making money. I guess that's the lesson here. Your story?
It's still a way to turn a buck, I guess, other than just, gouging people for water or something. Okay, so when American politics knows, we had an election yesterday in Ohio as the Republicans tried a little sneaky maneuver to keep control of their minority, what is known as minority rule in America. Ohio voters is from, I was going to read the New York Times, but it was a little long, so I went to the AP story. This is Julie Carr Smythe and Samantha Hendrickson. Ohio voters on Tuesday resoundingly rejected a Republican-backed measure that would have made it more difficult to change the state's constitution, setting up a fall campaign that will become the nation's latest referendum on abortion rights since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned nationwide protections last year. And we'll get to the Supreme Court and their corruption in a minute. The defeat of issue 1 keeps in place a simple majority threshold for passing future constitutional amendments rather than the 60% supermajority that was proposed. So right now the law says you can vote on amendments in the state constitution. 50% is needed for passage. The Republicans wanted to make it 60% with this vote. Its supporters said the higher bar would protect the state's foundational document from outside interest groups. Voter opposition to the proposal was widespread, even spreading into traditional Republican territory. In fact, in early returns, support for the measure fell far short of Trump's performance during the 2020 election. Dennis Willard, a spokesman for the opposition campaign One Person, One Vote, called the issue 1 a deceptive power grab that was intended to diminish the influence of states' voters. Tonight is a victory for democracy in Ohio, Willard told the jubilant crowd at the opposition campaign's watch party. The majority still rules in Ohio. President Joe Biden hailed Tuesday's result, releasing a statement saying this measure was a blatant attempt to weaken voters' voices and further erode the freedom of women to make their own health care decisions. Ohioans spoke loud and clear, and tonight democracy won. A major national group that opposes abortion rights, Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, called the result a sad day for Ohio while criticizing the outside money that helped the opposition, even though both sides relied on outside money. But their outside money was bad money, don't you understand? Republicans lawmaker had pushed the measure and put it before voters during the height of summer vacation season, explained away that the defeat as a result of too little time to adequately explain its virtues to voters. But people that rushed it out there, morons. A Maine backer, Republican Senate President Matt Huffman, predicted lawmakers would try again, though probably not as soon as next year. Obviously, there are a lot of folks that did not want this to happen, not just because of the November issues, but for all the other ones that are coming. Oh yeah, don't address the actual issue that you're just trying to shit on people's rights. He said, expressly disappointment that Republicans didn't stick together. In his statement, Republican House Speaker Jason Steffen advised supporters move past Tuesday's result to focus on trying to defeat the abortion rights measure. The people of Iowa have spoken, he said, so let's try to convince them not to vote next time. That's basically the plan. Damn, we got to come up with a way to get less people to vote. That's our next plan. While abortion was not directly on the special election ballot, the result marks the latest setback for Republicans in a conservative-leaning state who favor imposing tough restrictions on the procedure. Ohio Republicans placed the question on the summer ballot in hopes of undercutting citizen initiative that voters will decide in November that seeks to enshrine abortion rights in the state. Other states where voters have considered abortion rights since last year's Supreme Court ruling have protected them, including in red states like Kansas and Kentucky. Dr. Marcela Arvedo, one of the leaders of the coalition advancing fall abortion questions, said Tuesday's Measure 1's defeat should allow the measure to pass in November. Interest in Tuesday's special election was intense, even after Republicans ignored their own law that took effect earlier this year to place the question before voters in August. Voters cast nearly 700,000 early in-person and mail ballots ahead of Tuesday's final day of voting, more than double the number of advanced votes in a typical primary election. So this goes on a little bit long. They also wanted to, part of the measure, along with increasing the threshold to 60%, it would mandate that any signatures for a constitutional amendment be gathered from all of Ohio's 88 counties, not just 44. It is a change that Dom said would give more Ohio residents a chance to make their voices heard. Now, Dom is Dom was in support of it, so he's kind of a fascist at once. Yeah, you want to get all the counties. They're just making it harder to get the abortion measure on the ballot in November. It didn't pass, so now that abortion giving abortion rights, your freedom in November is going to be on the ballot more than likely. So your story, and it's going to pass. I should say it's probably going to pass.
Yeah.
I mean, and a little note to the Democrats, and I think they already know this. Get abortion rights on the ballot in November 2024. You're going to get a high turnout, and a high turnout is always bad for Republicans. Your story.
Okay, in some slightly wacky news, we've discovered that seals practice social distancing.
Wow.
This is from Philip Hoare in on The Guardian. Sponsored by The Guardian. A real survey of the North Sea has revealed that seals practice social distancing, and the discovery may have profound implications for the spread of disease among the marine mammals. In a paper published today by the Royal Society, researchers conducting census of gray and harbor seals detail new evidence that the two species not only maintain distances between their own kind, unlike walruses, for instance, who cluster together, but also that this behavior may be reflected of an evolutionary response to viral susceptibility. There we go, we got it. By comparing the harbor seal colonies with gray seal colonies, we have found that the harbor seals keep a greater distance from their neighbors than the gray seals do, the report leads. Author Joran Hoekendijk of the Royal Netherlands Institute for Sea Research and Wageningen Marine Research told The Guardian, with catastrophic rates of bird flu currently contributing to serious concerns about disease in wildlife, the new report may have important implications to the way such outbreaks are tracked. The area surveyed was a wild expanse on the coast of the Dutch Wadden Sea, where both species of seals haul out on the intertidal flats and beaches to rest, socialize, mate, and give birth. They gather there in a great number. Up to 6,500 gray seals choose the high sea banks, while the harbor seals, about 8,000 were observed, prefer sand revealed at low tide. Unfortunately, the large number of harbor seals have faced disastrous outbreaks of disease in the past. Phocine seal distemper virus ravaged the population in 1988 and 2002, halving their numbers. About 18,000 harbor seals died of distemper in the UK and Europe in the 1988 outbreak. Gray seals, however, remained relatively unharmed. Many gray seals were actually also infected, but just didn't get as sick as the harbor seals, said Hoekendijk. This may actually have contributed to the spread of the virus. They carry the virus, but can still move around freely. He pointed to the recent evidence that gray's reduced susceptibility had genetic underpinnings. Fascinatingly, it may be that the social distancing described in the new report represents a memory of those severe outbreaks. Other studies have shown that gray seals are more resistant to respiratory viruses than harbor seals, says Hoekendijk. The greater inter-animal distance that we've observed for the harbor seals in our study might be a response, very similar to our response during the COVID pandemic. Comparisons with COVID are telling. COVID is itself a zoonotic disease that is transmissible from animals to human. A report earlier this year showed that COVID was more widespread in wild animals than hitherto thought. Disease is also thought to have affected marine mammals. There are concerns, and the presence of human sewage released in the sea may spread COVID among seals and whales. Ironically, lockdown had benefited for the natural world. Reduced disturbance of wild areas, seals are particularly prone to interruption by human presence, and seas, rendered quieter by the lack of vessels, created a brief window of respite for many marine animals. The lockdowns even halted sea culls in Namibia. It is not a bad idea for humans to keep their distance from seals, too. Not only is there a danger of being bitten, the bites have been linked to potential human-animal zoonosis in the form of the notorious sea finger, caused by contact with seals' claw or teeth, which can transmit the bacterium Mycoplasma cerebrale in the skin. If the skin is broken, infection has led to the amputation of human digits among fishers and scientists. So, don't get bit by a seal. And I guess keep social distancing out there because the seals are doing it. So we should do it too.
Great advice. Always good advice. Don't get bit by a seal. And with the comeback of leprosy, at least in South Florida, leprosy making a comeback. We got to cover that story soon. Yeah, good old leprosy. Your finger's going to be falling off from that, if not from seal bites. Or whatever falls off from leprosy, your nose, whatever. Stuff falls off. Let's just put it that way. Oh, is it my story, I guess, huh? All right. We're going to go into a Supreme Court decision that favors Joe Biden. A divided Supreme Court on Tuesday allowed the Biden administration to enforce regulations to clamp down on so-called ghost guns, a firearm making its kits available online that people can assemble at home. The court, which is a 6-3 conservative majority, in a brief order put on hold a July 5th ruling by a federal judge in Texas that blocked the regulations. Vote was 5-4 with Chief Justice John Roberts and fellow conservative Amy Coney Barrett joining the 3 liberal justices in the majority. Hey, Amy Coney Barrett maybe not on the take, I don't know. The Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, normally called as ATF, issued the regulations last year to tackle what it claims has been an abrupt increase in the availability of ghost guns. The guns are difficult for law enforcement to trace, and the administration calling them a major threat to public safety. The rule clarified that ghost guns fit within the definition of firearm under federal law, meaning that the government has the power to regulate them. Hear that? Regulating guns is the power of the federal government given by the Second Amendment. And the Supreme Court agrees to that. That's what the Second Amendment does. It regulates guns. That's right, folks. It doesn't give you rights. It regulates guns. You already have the right to a gun. You do. It's in the Fourth Amendment. You do. You have a right to the gun. Yeah. You have a right to a gun in the Fourth Amendment. It's not explicit. You have a right to anything you want to own in the Fourth Amendment. The Second Amendment regulates guns.
Yeah.
That's basically what it does. That's all it does. Okay? All right. And back on the Supreme Court in their corruption angle, Clarence Thomas, $267,230 RV, and the friend who financed it. Justice Clarence Thomas met the Justice Clarence Thomas. This is from the original story, the Biden story, was New York Times. That was Lawrence Hurley. This one is written by Joe Becker and Julie Tate. Justice Clarence Thomas met the recreational vehicle of his dreams in Phoenix on a November Friday in 1999. With some time to kill before an event that night, he headed to a dealership just west of the airport. There sat a used Provost Lee Mirage XL Marathon, 8 years old and 40 feet long, with the orange flames licking down the sides. In the words of one of the biographers, he kicked the tires and climbed aboard, then quickly negotiated a handshake deal. A few weeks later, Justice Thomas drove his new motor coach off the lot and into his everyman, up by the bootstrap self-mythology. There he is behind the wheel during a rare 2007 interview with 60 Minutes, talking about how the steel-clad converted bus allows him to escape the meanness that you see in Washington. He regularly slips into his speeches his love for driving through the American heartland, the part we fly over. And in a documentary financed by conservative admirers, Justice Thomas, who was born into poverty, and George waxes rhapsodic about the familiarity of spending time with the regular folks he meets along the way in RV parks and Walmart parking lots. I don't have any problem with going to Europe, but I prefer the United States, and I prefer seeing the regular parts of the United States. There's something normal about it. I come from regular stock, and I prefer being around that. But there's an untold story and far more complex backstory to Justice Thomas's RV, one that not only undercuts the mythology, but also leaves unanswered host of questions of whether the justice received and failed to disclose a lavish gift from a wealthy friend. His Prevost Marathon cost $267,230, according to the title history records obtained by New York Times. And Justice Thomas, who is in his ensuing years would tell friends how he had scrimped and saved to afford the motor coach, did not buy it on his own. In fact, the purchase was underwritten, at least in part, by Anthony Walters, a close friend who made the fortune in the healthcare industry. He provided Justice Thomas with financing that experts said a bank would have been unlikely to extend, not only because Justice Thomas was already carrying a lot of debt, but because the Marathon's brand high level of customization makes used motorhomes difficult to value. In an email, Mr. Walters, his benefactor, here's what I can share. 25 years ago, I loaned a friend money, as I have other friends and family who have all been on one side or the other of that equation. He used it to buy a recreational vehicle, which is a passion of his. The loan was satisfied. Of course, it's a loan that me and you, as common citizens, cannot get. We cannot get this loan. But if you're a Supreme Court justice in high places, you can get this loan. That's what's known as influence peddling, and that is illegal in the government at every level. And we are letting this guy get away with it. And we've been letting him get away with it for at least 25 years.
Yeah, if a freaking vote counter did this, they would be in prison right now.
Right, and the idiots in charge of the Supreme Court are claiming, at least Alito, who's not in charge, he's not the Chief Justice, is also hiding things. And he's saying, well, Congress can't regulate the Supreme Court. Dude, it's in the separation of powers in the Constitution. And you're a Supreme Court justice. Maybe read the damn thing. Your story.
Okay, in goofy, wacky news, take a look at this. I'll put it over your screen. There, I'll show you the picture later. But this is more for the viewers. There's a car inside of a house. Just straight up launched into a house. That's right. This car pierces the first floor of a home in the U.S. A motorist pierced the first floor of the house in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. The police assumed that it was an intentional act by the 20-year-old driver, but provided no further explanation. A Junction Fire Company firefighter who helped remove the car in Lewistown tells the Washington Post that the car likely flew into the air after the driver hit a culvert. This is a kind of pipe that allows the water to flow under the road to the surface. Slope from the bottom to the top of the culvert was enough for the vehicle to miss the cars in the ramp and land directly on the first floor, says the firefighter. When the police arrived, the driver was already standing next to the vehicle. He was injured and was taken to a hospital. One of the owners in the house was home when the car flew into the house, but he was on the ground floor at the time. The motorist is suspected of, among other things, attempted aggravated assault and reckless endangerment of a person. The house is badly damaged, as can be seen from these photos that I will share with you now. We've got a car. This is from another angle. This is the house, which is just, the whole room is destroyed, really. There's a huge, I want to say 10-foot hole in this room. Yep, that's after the car has been removed, and they've put a bar to keep the structure so the house doesn't collapse on itself. And yeah, there you go. That's my short and sweet story about how somebody was able to fly their car directly into the first floor or second floor for Europeans of someone's house. Wacky news on Wacky Wednesday.
Freakishly, and no one was hurt. We are...
Well, the driver was hurt, but he's also the one who did the
hurt.
thing. So,
course,
consequences
he's
of your
one.
actions, you could say.
That's right. So no innocents were hurt, let's say
No
that.
innocents were hurt, yeah. There wasn't a baby in a freaking...
Right. There was a pet turtle taking a nap in his terrarium.
Yeah, the dog wasn't
smashed
run
him
over.
against the wall and bloody turtle guts everywhere. None of that, hopefully. And it's the lighter side of news. And you brought visual aids. I don't have visual aids except my ugly face. And Florida, in other cars, weird car news, we have drivers searching after 32 vehicles reportedly found in submerged Florida lake. It's from Chelsea Robinson of Wesh.com. Wesh.com. It's a WES. Oh, it's a TV station in Florida, I think. Channel 2. Okay, WES. Divers are searching a Florida lake after more than 30 vehicles were reportedly spotted. At least one vehicle has been already pulled from the water. According to NBC Miami, the Miami-Dade Police Department Special Patrol Bureau Divers Unit is searching for several dozen vehicles Tuesday after receiving information of cars submerged in a Doral Lake. Divers, man, I'm having trouble reading. Divers Ken Fleming and Doug Bishop told WSVN they found 32 vehicles while working as volunteers hoping to solve cold cases. When we discover a spot like this with multiple vehicles, pretty much indicates that a crime where there is disposing of vehicles and hiding them from law enforcement. Police told NBC Miami one of the cars recovered Tuesday was a 2002 Nissan Altima that was confirmed as a stolen vehicle. Such a scam. You drive your vehicle off a cliff and say it was stolen and get the money. These are most likely the types of vehicles they're going to find here dumped in this lake. Vehicles that have perhaps been abandoned, they wanted to get rid of them. They got rid of them, and those that took them for a joyride, they were stolen and they were dumped inside the lake. Zabarata said they are not disregarding the possibility of fraud or other factors like homicide. Officials said they don't believe any cold cases are tied to the vehicles in the lake. It's just an odd thing that 32 vehicles at least that the divers were able to count at the bottom of a lake. Not a normal thing that happens in nature. Your story. Short and sweet.
The commemoration year does the Flood Disaster Museum no harm. People are increasingly finding their way to the Zeeland Watersnood Museum. According to the director, this is due to the great publicity surrounding the major commemoration in February, when it was exactly 70 years ago that the national disaster took place. I am feeling a little sick, so that's why I forgot to unmute myself. In the 1950s, there was a great flooding of the Netherlands, not really due to nature, but more due to the fact that in World War II, the Dutch bombed their own dikes and bridges to stop the Germans from invading, which means that when any sort of high tide or storm happened, the entire country was not ready to defend itself from that water, so the water just kept coming. The museum in Owl Worked already received 90,000 visitors this year. Until now, the record number of visitors in an entire year was 100,000 visitors, writes Omroep Zeeland. That was in 2018. The director, Simiko Laurissa, noticed that there is clearly more interest in the disaster. Since the commemoration, many more groups have come along, not only from the Netherlands, but also from Flanders. We are of course happy with that. Flanders is the northern region of Belgium that speaks Dutch. This year, on February 1st, 1953, so it was 53, I said the 50s, but whatever. It was 70 years ago that the Watersnood disaster took place, the largest natural disaster of the 20th century in the Netherlands. Large parts of the southwest of the country were flooded. 1,836 people lost their lives. Tens of thousands of animals also did not survive the disaster. According to Lauwers, another important reason why the Flood Museum attracts extra visitors is the increased interest in climate change. He also thinks that recent floods, such as those 2 years ago in Limburg, are fueling interest in the flood disaster. In the museum, we also try to link the message of 53 about water awareness to stories of today. According to the director, the success cannot only be explained by the major commemoration, the drizzly weather also plays a role. Many tourists and day trippers are therefore looking for an indoor outing. That's right, it's been raining for basically non-stop for the most part in the Netherlands. I mean, today it looks good, but I'm sure it'll rain later. It's just been raining, so watch out for that water because it's coming for you. The time for this day in history.
Okay, so back on to Trivial Past. And again, August 9th I gave yesterday, I'm pretty sure. So this is going to be a rerun. So if you watched yesterday's, congratulations, you already got this stuff. And if you didn't watch yesterday, what's wrong with you? Start watching every day. This needs to be an addiction. Okay, so we are going to... I could have sworn that was nice. Thank you. Okay. So, yesterday, we tried to do this. So we'll do it again today. On August 9th, 1173, in Pisa, Italy, construction began the bell tower that became internationally famous as the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Hey!
It's still up there, though. It's still there. I'm sure it would have fallen years ago without help, though. In 1814, defeated by U.S. General Andrew Jackson, the Creek Indians signed the Treaty of Fort Jackson, requiring them to cede 23 million acres of land and more than half of Alabama and parts of southern Georgia. In 1854, Henry David Thoreau's masterwork Walden was published. In 1896, Russian dancer, innovative choreographer Leonid Massin, one of the most important figures of 20th century dance, was born in Moscow. In 1945, the United States dropped the second atomic bomb, this one on Nagasaki, Japan. This is in 1869, American actress Sharon Tate and 4 others were murdered by the followers of Charles Manson, leader of the communal religious cult known as the Family. In 1974, Gerald Ford was sworn as President of the United States, succeeding Richard Nixon, who had resigned, which I think he was sworn in the same day. I don't think there was a next day thing, was there? Maybe they had a formal one the next day. I don't remember. I was still young. I remember it happening, but I don't remember what. I was probably in school. No, it was August, so I wasn't in school. I didn't watch it. Let's just put it that way. 1988, Canadian hockey player Wayne Gretzky was traded to the Edmonton Oilers from the Edmonton Oilers to the Los Angeles Kings in a deal that shocked the sports world and stunned his home country, and Canada has not been the same since. In 1995, Jerry Garcia, who personified hippie counterculture for 3 decades as the mellow leader of the rock band Grateful Dead, died at the age of 53. I covered that yesterday. I just bought some Jerry Garcia weed the other day. Just on Monday. Yesterday? Yeah, that was yesterday. No, yesterday was Tuesday, wasn't it? So it wasn't Monday. In 2014, Michael Brown, an unarmed African-American teenager, was fatally shot by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, resulting in days of civil unrest and protests fueled by tensions between Ferguson's predominantly black population and its predominantly white government and police department. And our featured event in this day, 48 BC, Pompey defeated by Julius Caesar in the Battle of Pharsalus, during the Roman Civil War of 49 to 45 BCE. Julius Caesar's troops on this day in 48 decisively defeated the army of Pompey in the Battle of Pharsalus, causing Pompey to flee for Egypt, where he was subsequently murdered. Pompey, not the city in Italy, but the ruler. Just to keep those two things straight.
Yes, Pompey was not Pompey a great guy.
Spelled Pompey.
Yeah.
Not Pie.
Pompey. Yo, it's Pompey. Get him.
Other birthdays, Amadeo Avogadro is his birthday, born in 1976. He was an Italian physicist. Audrey Tautou was born in this day, French actress, 1976. She was born this day. American actress Gillian Anderson was born this day, 1968. American football player and college football coach now, Deion Sanders, was born in this day in 1967. Whitney Houston was born in this day in 1963, so she would have turned 60 today if she was still around. And P.L. Travers, British author, was born this day in 1899. Those are the days today. What day is it also today? Would you like to know? You would. I didn't hear you, but I'm pretty sure you would. It is International Co-working Day. So if you have co-workers...
We're doing that right now.
Yeah, are you?
You're co-working?
Yeah. Yeah, you're working with another person.
Yeah.
So be nice to your coworkers, at least for today. And it is a Wednesday. So yeah, you're all in it together. It's a struggle against the man. Think of it that way. National Rice Pudding Day.
Rice pudding.
National Rice Pudding. It's National Passion Fruit Day. And we love us a passion fruit.
Passion fruit rice pudding? Is that what I hear?
That's right. And it's World Calligraphy Day. I like calligraphy. It's really hard though. And it's National Veep Day. I guess it's Vice President Day. It's Vice President Day. I guess that's what National Veep Day is. I'll click on that in a minute.
Yeah.
International Day of excuse me, my burp. Jeez. International Day of the World's Indigenous People. And it's National Book Lovers Day. So lots of great days to recognize book lovers, your co-workers, rice pudding. You can't go wrong. Recognizes National Veep Day on August 9th, recognizes the succession plan of the President of the United States. The day also acknowledges the one president who was neither elected vice president nor president, Gerald Ford. So that's why it's National Veep Day. It's the only time in our history where somebody became president without ever appearing on a ballot.
Thanks, Nixon.
Story. Thanks, Nixon. Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Nixon and Agnew. Could have done it without Agnew being a crook, too. Because he had to resign first. All right. Your story. Oh, I guess that's it. That's the National Day.
That's Allison here from the Netherlands who's going to go attempt to do yoga while I'm slightly sick. But I'm not going to stop, and no one's going to stop me. And I'm going to have some rice pudding later, and it's going to make me feel way better. Because, I don't know. Oh, there's a lot of sugar in this recipe. There's a lot of sugar in this recipe. Anyways, we'll see you tomorrow on Thursday, where hopefully I'm feeling better after my day of rest here on Wednesday.
Maybe go easy on the rice pudding. It doesn't sound like a good diet when you're sick. Clogging yourself up with starch. All right. This is Roger off in the United States, who looks like it's going to be another mediumly hot day, which is good. And hope you all take care of each other on this today. National Go Read a Book and Be Nice to Your Coworkers Day. On the comprehensive, and don't forget to like and subscribe, which I don't tell people enough. And I see everybody does this. They're constantly just like, whoa, we're going to build this big, huge channel if you just subscribe and make us more important. And that's what we got to do. We got to act more desperate, I think.
I would love to be swarmed with comments. So many comments that I can't even read them all. That's what I would want.
We got to say something controversial. You know, we just got to do that. Go viral.
We've been saying controversial stuff all the time.
I know we do. But it doesn't go viral. We got to insult somebody famous.
And we insulted Maloney, Italian Prime Minister.
That's not enough, man. That's not enough. We got to somebody culturally important. Joe Rogan ain't enough, you know. It ain't enough to insult Kid Rock, you know. It's like they live off your hatred, so it doesn't do any good, you know. We feed off your hatred. Oh God, no, that doesn't work for us. Okay, all right. So today, we're going to say goodbye now for the comprehensive news of planet Earth on August 9th, 2023, before coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons. and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.